Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hello and a very, very good evening to you. Welcome to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's action-packed show, 15 people are dead in an horrific anti-Semitic shooting on Australia's iconic Bondi Beach, with many more still fighting for their lives. But this afternoon, a draft of the government's controversial definition of Islamophobia was published, and incredibly, within the last hour, the organiser of a central London vigil for the Jewish victims claim it has been obstructed by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan's office. And do you remember this?
To go after the criminal gangs, to smash the gang networks.
To smash the smuggling gangs.
Smash the gangs.
To smash the gangs.
To smash those gangs. Well, the Home Secretary yesterday conceded that the government's flagship policy to smash those gangs is simply not working. As 700 small boat migrants crossed the Channel on Saturday alone, did Labour have any hope of getting a grip of this potentially massive crisis? And finally,
change is coming.
Well, that was Reform UK's message to the civil service this morning as the party set out plans to slash the number of civil servants and save billions of pounds in the process for the British taxpayer. I'll be joined shortly in the studio by the head of Reform UK's Department for Preparing for Government, Danny Kruger, who outlined the proposals earlier on today. We've got a cork of the menu, tons to come. That's all coming up on your show tonight. But first, here's news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 7:01. The Prime Minister has said that the terror attack on Bondi Beach was not an isolated incident and is part of a pattern of incidents focused on Jewish holy days. 2 men opened fire at a Hanukkah gathering on Sydney's iconic beach yesterday, killing 15 people. The victims include a 10-year-old girl, a British-born rabbi and a Holocaust survivor. Sir Keir Starmer added that he wanted to reassure Jewish communities in the United Kingdom, and a vigil is taking place in Westminster and in Heaton Park this evening. Police earlier confirmed the gunmen were father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram. The older man died at the scene while his son is in a critical condition in hospital. Local media reported that 2 Islamic State flags were found in the gunman's car. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said clearly they were motivated by this extremist ideology. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has called on resident doctors to ignore the British Medical Association and abandon the Christmas strikes. His plea comes as resident doctors have voted to reject the government's latest offer on working conditions, meaning nearly half of England's medical workforce will walk out this week. The British Medical Association says a 5-day strike will begin on Wednesday, following months of deadlock over pay and working conditions. Health leaders say it could cause major disruption during the busy winter period, with flu cases already at record levels. Nick Reiner, the son of legendary Hollywood director and actor Rob Reiner, is in custody after Mr. Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead yesterday. The arrest comes as police continue their investigation after the couple were found in their Los Angeles home. It's understood from police officials that Nick Reiner was charged earlier today. The new chief of MI6 has said that the agency is dealing with an interlocking web of security challenges during her first public speech. Blaise Metroelli highlighted recent sanctions against both Russian and Chinese entities, adding that we are in a space between peace and war. Miss Metroelli took over from Sir Richard Moore earlier this year, becoming the first woman to head MI6. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has described talks with the US as productive as discussions continue in Berlin on the Ukraine-Russia war. Zelensky added that the talks were not easy and that Russia was using its attacks on Ukraine as leverage. A US official said that President Trump will dial into discussions in Germany this evening to work out next steps. They added that Russia is suggesting it is open to Ukraine joining the EU. The Prime Minister said that the UK cannot let up support for Zelensky's country. And speaking in the House of Commons tonight, the Foreign Secretary has called for the immediate release of Jimmy Lai after the British national was convicted today. Earlier, the UK condemned the conviction of the 78-year-old pro-democracy activist as a politically motivated prosecution. Mr Lai now faces a possible life sentence after being found guilty under Hong Kong's Beijing-imposed national security law. Yvette Cooper says she summoned the Chinese ambassador today to outline her position in the strongest possible terms. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Martin.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubry. Now, yesterday, 15 people, and most of them Jewish, of course, were brutally killed, murdered in cold blood while celebrating Chanukah on Bondi Beach in a suspected Islamist shooting. Now, among the victims were a 10-year-old child and a British-born father of 5. Now, after witnessing the horrors in Sydney, it's time we took a hard look at ourselves and at the approach successive governments have taken to tackling Islamist and extremism on our streets. Now, lest we forget, the very day after the 7th of October, an attack that marked the biggest massacre of Jewish people since the Holocaust, anti-Israel protesters targeted the Israeli embassy in London before Israel had even finished counting its dead and its missing. But of course, in the weeks and the months that followed, we saw balaclavas on our streets, chants of globalise the Intifada, and also fireworks and open intimidation of Jews. And then, of course, there was that infamous moment witnessed with my own eyes, the Intifada Brigade projecting their message onto the Mother of Parliaments, the home of our democracy, the mother of all democracies, as police simply stood by and watched. They did absolutely nothing. I personally pleaded with officers to intervene several times, both sides of Parliament Green. They did absolutely diddly squat, their eternal shame. And now, take a look at this video. Recorded just 3 days ago in central London, men brazenly calling for the release of the convicted jihadist Mullah Cracker. And yet it continues, because just moments ago, the chief executive of the campaign against anti-Semitism, he told GB News that the planned vigil for the Bondi Beach victims is being obstructed by the Mayor of London's office.
Officials from the Greater London Authority have turned up with clipboards telling us that we are not allowed to set up on Parliament Square at all, not even at the foot of Sir Winston Churchill's statue, which is what we had planned to do. Instead, it looks like the Met Police are being forced to close a road so that we can be moved off the square into the road for pretty obvious reasons, apart from just not blocking London traffic. For security reasons, we want to be on the square itself, but it seems to be that under Sadiq Khan's leadership, the Greater London Authority has given us its very own Hanukkah miracle and forced us off Parliament Square onto the road.
Now, it's worth pointing out that that vigil was allowed to go ahead, no doubt, after the outrage when we posted that interview there on GB News. But I'm joined now in the studio by the former Conservative Special Advisor who filmed the protest last week, James Price, as well as the former Labour Party Advisor, Matthew Larser. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Let's start with you, if I could. James Price, you filmed those sickening scenes in central London of Mullah Krekar, a known terrorist. Tell us about quickly who this individual is and why on earth were people demanding his liberty?
It's a very, very good question, isn't it? I mean, I hadn't really heard very much about this chap before. I was cycling down Park Lane, one of the poshest bits probably in the whole world, certainly on the Monopoly board. I heard something, I take my earphones out thinking maybe it's Christmas carols. Nope, it's the charming refrain of screams of Allahu Akbar or God is great in Arabic by literally hundreds of men. And the whole footage goes on for about 3 minutes of people marching along, many of them holding these banners saying, release this person. This person in question, known as Mullah Krekar, is a Kurdish jihadist terrorist who ran a small Al-Qaeda-affiliated statelet in the north of Iraq that was defeated by secular Kurdish and American forces back in 2003. He then went back to the same Norway that had given him refugee status before, and then Norway has spent many, many years trying to get rid of him. He's called for the death of Norwegian politicians. He's put fatwas out against various authors and so on. And he was then found, funnily enough, to be running another terrorist jihadist cell, was extradited to Italy, where he's now serving a prison sentence. And that march that we saw ended up at the Italian embassy. Hundreds of men, and it was only men, I'll point out, of course it was only men, were protesting, asking for this known jihadist to be released from prison in another country. And
isn't that the point? We see such an emboldenment now of such attitudes. Why do you think that's happening? Is it partly to do with the fact that the authorities, the police, successive governments, but particularly the Labour government, have seemingly taken the knee to these people?
Yeah, absolutely right. You can get away with all sorts of things in this country if you look like you're an aggressive enough group and that you'll cry foul or cry racism or cry islamophobia, as we heard about on the previous programme, or anything else. There's that old Lenin quote, push forward with your bayonet, and if you meet steel, pull back. If you meet flesh, keep pushing. And as you say, I think emboldenment is exactly the right word. We see protests like this time and time and time again, and they get more and more emboldened. And in Sydney, right, we've seen these horrendous sights happen. The day after October the 7th, there were huge numbers of people protesting outside the Sydney Opera House. What were they screaming, amongst other things? Literally, gas the Jews. That's what people were screaming. And at no point did Australia go, maybe we've got a problem here, and all of these people should be rounded up and put in prison. I hope everyone on that march I recorded, at the very least, is on some kind of watch list.
Matthew Larser, let's bring you in now. Of course, the previous government didn't especially get a grip on this either, but a lot of people believe that it's getting even worse under the Labour regime, and it's an incredible situation to even hear about, that some clipboard from the council or City Hall, the police, wherever, is actually going up to Jewish people tonight who are out to perform a vigil supporting those massacred in Bondi, being told they can't lay a menorah at the foot of the Churchill statue. I've seen that statue personally desecrated with graffiti, flags, Palestinian flags taped up on it, people clambering atop it. There were no police in sight then. Is this proof, once again, of two-tiered policing?
Well, I hope that this is, over the top, people in high-vis with a clipboard, as it were, rather than a direct intervention from the Mayor's office. And I believe that the vigil has now gone ahead. But I'm slightly concerned about whether the Mayor himself isn't leading a vigil tonight. I'm sure that mayors in cities across the world are. There's actually a sort of large menorah in Trafalgar Square. I passed it on the way to here. It's not lit tonight, presumably out of sympathy, but I would have thought it would be appropriate for the mayor to do that. We actually saw the Prime Minister lighting on before yesterday. So, I think the mayor certainly got questions to answer if they were prevented from doing it. Why, and why isn't he taking a lead on this?
Well, James Price, why do you think the Mayor of London isn't leading a vigil for the Jewish community?
Well, I think that he's someone who's been very equivocal on these sorts of issues. He's very quick to cry Islamophobia about anything all the time, much slower in other instances, I think. And look, it's an awkward and difficult topic. We don't like to address what it is that unites some of these people. But the video that I filmed earlier on, people are talking about a secular issue to some extent. They want the release of someone who is, and this is the difficult bit, if someone is a jihadist, they are both a religious sort of actor and a political and a military one. There's a fusion of all of these things. But what is it they scream? They scream Allahu Akbar or God is great. So there is an awkward conflation of all of these sorts of things. And we don't really have the language. You can see me talking now about it. We don't have the language to be able to work these things through. Is that a religious protest? Is it a political protest? Is it a military gathering? How should we address these things? And instead of trying to work through these issues that have, I think, blighted the West for many, many decades, let's not forget, of course, 40-odd years ago, Salman Rushdie was almost killed and had a fatwa put out against him for the crime of writing a novel. Instead of saying enough is enough, you people need to integrate, there needs to be a lot more peace, a lot more talking about Britishness and all the rest of it. Instead, we've got the Labour government keen to pull the definition of Islamophobia, which is by definition an irrational fear of a set of ideas, to make it impossible to criticise one religion and one religion only. And one more thing quickly on this, the Crown Prosecution Service is trying desperately to prosecute someone for setting fire and desecrating Quran, the religious holy book of Islam. It's a horrible thing to do, it's not very nice, but to do that would be to reintroduce blasphemy laws into this country. That's not something we could have. We're going in completely the wrong direction when we have a civilisational problem in our midst.
Matthew Larser, Jewish people are scared. I've had them on my show earlier on today. They are thinking about leaving the country. Where they can find solitude, they don't know. They thought they could in Australia. Look what happened in Bondi. I put it to you. A lot of people think that this is getting worse, much worse, under the Labour Party, who seem to be enshrined to bowing down to the Muslim community. Why? Do they just want their votes above all else?
Well, I don't think that the Labour Party is in hock to the Muslim community, as it were, but I do think clearly there is a huge amount of work to make sure that every Jewish person, whether they're here, I'm partly Australian, my dad was from Sydney, so I know exactly how people went, particularly after 1945, went to Australia as a place of refuge, and that sort of huge shock today. But people, whether in Australia or in the UK, Jewish people must feel safe, and everything that needs to be done must be done. On the definition of Islamophobia, I think actually it looks like at the moment that there's more sensible conclusions maybe coming out of this working group. There is an international definition of anti-Semitism, which is quite right. The Labour Party, there was a big row in the Labour Party about whether the Labour Party would adopt it or not during the Corbyn years. Thankfully, in the end, it did. So, I don't believe in blasphemy laws by the back door, but I do believe in.
But that's a false equivalency, isn't it? Because Jewishness is, as well as again being a set of religious beliefs, there is a racial or ethnic element to it as well. There isn't with someone who is a Muslim. It's setting up a set of ideas. If you believe in 10 days' time that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and was born, you're a Christian, you believe those sets of ideas, they're open to interpretation, to criticism, as should be all sorts of other forms of sets of ideas. And I think, by the way, your point about being in hock to these communities and their votes is a great one. Look at what the Green Party are doing now to try and steal votes from Labour. Their deputy leader also screamed Allahu Akbar when he won his council seat recently, is someone who bullied a rabbi into hiding by spreading the most awful lies, and he received many, many death threats. The Your Party, as we know, have got all kinds of nuts in there as well. And I do think there is a political element to it. And I'll finish by saying this guy, Mullah Krekar, I was talking about, when he was in Norway, said there aren't enough Muslims to vote for Muslim parties yet. You should all vote for the hard socialist parties if you're a Muslim in Norway. We don't want that kind of sectarianism here.
OK, James Price, thank you for your company. And Matthew Lawes, of course, you're with me throughout tonight's show. Thank you to you. Now, friends of GB News have been voting in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code on your screen now. And we've been asking this question. In light of the horrific attack on Bondi Beach, can religious extremism ever be stopped? And the results are in there sobering. And it's this. 63% of you say no, we cannot stop it. And only 30% of you believe that yes, we can stop religious extremism. Wow. Now, thanks to James and to Matthew. Now, coming up after the break, we're taking you over to Berlin as Sir Keir Starmer joins European leaders. Once again, he's overseas in a push to end the war in Ukraine. But is this just the latest chapter of the man some people call Never Hear Keir? That's next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, welcome back to Farage with me tonight, your host, Martin Daubney. Still plenty more to come on tonight's show. Plus, I'll be joined in the studio by the Shadow Crime and Policing Minister, Matt Vickers. But before that, first, the Prime Minister has once again travelled abroad, this time to Berlin this evening to meet other European leaders to discuss, again, peace plans for Ukraine. Well, I'm joined now by GB News' chief political correspondent, Catherine Forster, live from Berlin. Catherine, I believe now this is Sir Keir Starmer's 44th foreign jaunt abroad. The man some call Never Hear Keir, who once again is in Berlin. What's the occasion this time?
Yes, well, I think somebody added up all the numbers and worked out that he'd been the equivalent of 6 times around the globe. But he would say that he goes on these trips to bring investment and growth to Britain. And on this particular instance, of course, it's all about our security, the security of Ukraine, yes, but the Prime Minister always stressing that it is not just about Ukraine. We've heard warnings from the new MI6 chief, from Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and others, that the front line, as the MI6 chief said today, is everywhere. Donald Tusk, the PM of Poland, said it's war because of all the hybrid activities that Russia is engaging in, not just the war in Ukraine. But this meeting here, absolutely about Ukraine. About a dozen European leaders gathered here following 2 days of talks between the Ukrainian President Zelensky and the US negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. They said yesterday that they'd made good progress. They've been negotiating for 2 days. The European leaders gathered together. They have been having lots of physical and virtual meetings. Well, going back to February, actually, I was in Paris for the very first one of them, this coalition of the willing that they're pulling together, and they've just issued a statement. I'll read you just a couple of key bits from that. They've said that they welcome the significant progress on President Trump's efforts to secure a just and lasting peace, and that US leaders and Europeans will give robust security guarantees, talk of a multinational force, and also support for Ukraine joining the European Union. But decisions on territory, they say, is going to be a matter for the Ukrainian people. So we will see how that takes place. And again, of course, nothing agreed till everything agreed. But it sounds like there is hope that things are moving in the right direction. But of course, will Russia cooperate? Up till now, it's shown no sign really of wanting peace in nearly 4 years.
Also, thanks very much for joining us live from Berlin. Let's get back to the studio now for some reaction. I'm joined by the Shadow Minister of State for Policing and Crime, Matt Vickers, and also throughout tonight's show, the former Labour Party advisor, Matthew Lars. Gentlemen, welcome. Let's start with you, if I could, Matt Vickers. Perhaps it's unfair that some people call the Prime Minister jet-set stormer, never here, Keir, but there was a moment of the weekend, 40,000 illegals into the country this year, 700 in one day. Is it really appropriate for our Prime Minister to be some sort of globetrotter at moments like this?
I think we'll let him off today, because this is actually a really important thing, that we get together with international partners to deliver the goods for Ukraine, because it's up to us to work in lockstep. Where we've seen success in the conflict with Ukraine, it's because the globe's worked in lockstep to deliver it. It showed Russia a united front, and that's how we've got the successes that we've got in Ukraine, and the solution will be found in that way. And it's for the Ukrainians to decide the outcome and what is and isn't conceded, and how we reach a conclusion with Russia. But actually, on the wider point about jet set Keir, never hear Keir and his air miles, I don't know who was getting the air miles, but the reality is that in most instances, this guy's turning up across the globe. It's not the cost of sending him there, it's the cost of what he gives away usually whilst he's there. In the context of Europe and our fishing rights, in the context of Chagos and whatever that's turned out to cost us in the end, whether he is or isn't truthful about what it cost us in the first instance, everywhere he seems to go, he seems to give it, he pulls up at these negotiations and sits at the wrong end of the table, because he never seems to defend Britain's interest in lots of these negotiations. But more broadly, on the big issues that are facing this country, we do need him. We would like to think that the Prime Minister would be focusing on the issue of the boats. Can you imagine where we'd be now? What we said, 40,000 have arrived since the election. Can you imagine if that Rwanda scheme had kicked off? It's got to have been a better result. If we'd been detaining and deporting those people, where would we have been now? It's got to have been, it couldn't have got any worse, I don't think.
Can I ask you about the point mentioned there by Catherine Forster, this kind of fast track of getting Ukraine into the European Union? Why? Why are they doing that? The Ukraine is a war zone. It's eviscerated. It was, before the war, one of the most corrupt countries in all of the world. What's the obsession with getting Ukraine into the EU?
Well, the EU wants everything it can get, but I think the reality is actually, when it comes down to these things, these are all to be decided by the Ukrainian people. I think whatever's going on there appears to be getting slightly ahead of itself. We've seen the debate around whether there should be UN members. We've seen, the reality is, for Ukraine to decide. I think we've actually got to continue to show...
It's not for Ukraine to decide.
Well, we've got to show...
It's not for the Ukraine to decide if they join the European Union or not. It's for the European Union member states.
Well,
it's not for Ursula von der Leyen. It's not for the rest of the world. It's like, I put it to you, we don't need to be expanding the European Union.
Well, we've talked about what we think should and shouldn't happen with the EU. We're both obviously on one side of getting out of the big bureaucratic monster that it is, so that we could define and decide our own way in the world. I'm not convinced that the Ukraine want to be part of it, but should they want to be, it would be something for them to decide and negotiate. I think in real terms, actually, the globe countries across the globe need to stand united against Russia, make the point. It's not about what you're signing up to as a member and what you're not signing up to a member. It's about telling Russia that it is not acceptable to incur in democratic states, hasn't it, in the way that it has.
Matthew, Lars, a quick blast from you. Is it fair to call Keir Starmer never here, Keir? I mean, we got political disasters left, right and centre back home here.
Well, look, I mean, I think, as Matt was saying, it's absolutely essential. There are things, he does trips like this one today on Ukraine. We've seen, obviously, a bit of wobbling from the White House, so it's very important that the rest of the world stands united, and therefore the White House tends to firm up when the rest of the world does that. Does he need to watch the optics of being out of the country too much? Yes. People inside the Labour Party just say that. I think there were a lot in the first 9 months. It sort of seemed to be going to the opening of an envelope, as long as it was in a foreign location. And obviously we do want Britain to be projected on the world stage, but there's a balance to be got right. I think he's getting that balance right more now. He's here to do PMQs. Maybe he doesn't want David Lammy to do them, but some wag said to me that was his encouragement. I would never, of course, say that.
Okay, thank you, Matthew Larser. Thank you, Matt Vickers. Pleasure to have both of your companies now. After the break, shocking new figures uncovered by a Freedom of Information request have revealed the astonishing true cost of migration. You're not Adam and Eve it. Stay tuned.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
It's not just the UK that's seeing unsettled conditions at the moment. Many western and central areas of the Mediterranean are also experiencing a mixture of heavy rain, thunderstorms, even some hill snow in locations. Gales pushing their way through the Gibraltar Strait and other coastal regions as well. Some areas may see 100 to 150 millimetres of rain, significantly above their December average. It's eastern areas around Greece and the Balkans that will stay driest, though, if you are heading out at all.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through tonight, it will turn drier and clearer across north and western areas finally, but the rain will push into more eastern areas of England. That's because this weather front is slowly but surely shifting its way eastwards through the rest of today, and behind it, we've got a ridge of slightly higher pressure moving in. So still some wet weather to come, particularly for northeastern England overnight tonight, and that rain will push into eastern areas of England, becoming a weaker feature, but still bringing some rain. Much drier night across many western and northern areas. We could see a touch of frost across parts of Northern Ireland, so a much chillier start here. And for most of us, it will be a more widely colder night tonight. There will also be a little bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday, particularly across anywhere we've had a lot of rain recently. Parts of southwest England, much of Wales seeing a much brighter start to the day. Some sunshine around. The further north and west you go, the brighter skies become. But as you move over towards western Scotland, there's a risk of showers, some of these falling as snow just over the highest mountains of the Highlands, for example. Clearer skies, though, across more eastern areas of Scotland. So a fairly bright and dry start to the day, certainly much nicer than it has been lately. But the cloud will linger across more eastern areas of England through much of the day. Actually, the rain could come and go, particularly across the far southeast. Elsewhere, though, a dry, bright, and for some of us, quite a sunny day. It's going to be a slightly fresher feel out there. Temperatures much closer to average for the time of year, around 8 or 9 degrees across many southern areas. Now, the dry weather doesn't last long, as we've got the next batch of rain moving in from the northwest on Wednesday. And as it moves into parts of South Wales, southwestern England, where we've had a lot of rain recently, there is another rain warning in force here. We could see further flooding issues and travel disruption. It looks quite unsettled into Thursday as well as the weekend. So please stay tuned to the forecast, as there is a risk of flooding. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host tonight, Martin Daubry. Now, astonishing new figures show that British taxpayers have spent at least £25 billion on universal credit payments to migrant households in just over 3 years. Now, incredible data from the Department for Work and Pensions obtained by the Centre for Migration Control via Freedom of Information requests. Well, they also show that payments to foreign nationals have risen sharply, up by an astonishing 25% in the past 1 year alone. Now, all in all, when combined with over £13 billion spent on the asylum system, the total cost since 2022 exceeds, wait for it, 40 billion quid. 40 billion quid of taxpayers' money. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Robert Bates, the Director of Research at the Centre for Migration Control. Rob Bates, we often say on this show, have the lunatics taken over the asylum system? Have the lunatics taken over our universal credit system? Eye-watering sums of money spent on this, and the British taxpayer never had a right to say no.
Well, they did try and say no. They've tried to say no successively at general elections, that the mass migration experiment that has been enacted by both Labour and Conservative governments was really something that I think the British public at large thought was not in the economic or social interests of the country. And when it comes to universal credit, we are seeing a huge explosion in the amount that we are spending every single year to people who are not even citizens of this country. It was about 7 or 8 billion last year. It's looking this year it's going to be on track for 11 or 12 billion. So this is increasing at a rate that's almost disproportionate to the rate that payments are increasing across the universal credit system as a whole. And we know that 30% of those foreign nationals that hold indefinite leave to remain status go on to ultimately claim universal credit, which is a rate far, far greater than British nationals. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, what have the British taxpayer actually got in return for these payments? I really, really struggle to see that there's any benefit for us making these payments and for us to continue with an indefinite leave to remain system that was actually created in the 1970s at a time when we had net negative migration. It was something that was not equipped in any way, shape or form to deal with, 1 million plus people arriving in some years in recent times. And unfortunately, the Labour government have said they're going to fiddle with indefinite leave to remain, which is what gives foreign nationals access to universal credit. But actually, there are so many loopholes in there that when you consider that we have up to 800,000 individuals that are eligible in the coming months now, we are sitting on a huge fiscal time bomb. And I really think actually these figures are just a tip of an iceberg. There's going to be a huge public debate in the coming years.
Rob Bates, when you look at these sums of money, it's just mind-blowing. And when you add it all together, it's political choices. The Chagos Islands, that could be another £40 billion plus. When you think about the fact the winter fuel allowance, that was only a mere £500 million. The inheritance tax on farmers, £1.5 billion. Chicken feed. And these kind of numbers will make people think perhaps charity doesn't begin at home. It begins with foreign people coming to Britain.
And I think that's why this is so insulting, because it's coming at a time when the British public are being absolutely walloped by a Labour government that is so heavy-handed. And you consider other elements. We briefly mentioned the asylum system there, which has exploded sixfold since 2019. We spent 14 odd billion in the last few years. We're paying illegal migrants to go and set up businesses in their own country. What are we doing here? What is the plan? What is the grand plan to help rebuild this country that many people feel is on its knees? And rather than actually, stop putting in place tax incentives, stop putting in place actually any growth strategy at all, we seem to just be plundering the coffers of the British public and throwing it at foreign nationals with absolutely nothing in return. It's really, really ridiculous. And, you're absolutely right to say, actually, the lunatics are in control of the asylum system, the benefit system, the immigration system at this point, and we're all suffering because of it.
OK, Rob Bates, thank you very much for your time. That's the Director of Research at the Centre for Migration Control. Let's get some reaction now back in the studio from the former Labour Party advisor, Matthew Larser. Matthew, these figures, they're eye-watering, they're unsustainable, but more to the point, any time that the public or anybody demands the Labour Party cut back on benefits, the backbenchers simply won't allow. We have a government addicted to giveaways?
Well, I think we're about to see in January the government bring forward a big benefit reform package, a big welfare to work package, which needs to be the other half of the getting. I'm in favour of getting rid of the two-child cap. 75% of those who will receive it, which is done in the budget, 75% of those who will benefit are in work. So I think we need the yin and the yang. We've had half. We've had half the package. We need the whole thing in the round. On these figures, I think they are shocking, and of course that's why the government is clamping down on indefinite leave to remain. Because unless Shabana Mahmood, the new Home Secretary, she is taking action just to remember the Boris bounce, all the people who came in when the Tories completely took their eye off the ball after Brexit and just basically were handing out visas like confetti. They have stopped everybody automatically reverting onto indefinite leave to remain, and instead you have to have your reason to be here or your asylum status checked. So there's a reason you're here. So it's not just arrive here, stay here. It's arrive here for a purpose and stay here if that purpose is continuing.
Shabana Mahmood, the Home Office, put a tweet out the other week and said benefits for Brits only, those born in Britain only. This government won't do that. There's no chance in hell that they'll say a similar policy to in France, the proposal from Le Pen's party, and that is if you're born overseas, you don't get benefits. End of story. Why did the Labour Party do that?
I think that's a simplistic approach because there are lots of people who are born overseas. My dad was born overseas, but he worked here all his life. He paid into his pension and he for 40 years and he got his pension. I mean, it was.
If I go to Australia or America, I don't get a penny.
Well, you would if you worked there in Australia, you would for decades. But look, I think what we can't have is people coming here, working for 6 months, and then going on to benefits. These figures are people who lots of people don't have the right to claim them at the moment. But what we can't. These are people who have got the right to stay here indefinitely, and we cannot just have an ever-increasing number of people having that right, which is why the government is saying and it's actually taking direct action to stop all those people that the Tories said could come in on the care leavers visa, when the care workers visa, when of course most of those people didn't even work in the care sector, that it's not a way into a life of full entitlement to British services, which is appropriate because British taxpayers don't want to be paying for British services to go to people who have only just started paying into the system.
But that's happening. That's happening left, right and centre. British people are getting up in the morning, they're going to work, they're watching, people come into the country, get a free house, get straight on benefits, they're taking the mickey and they feel like they're being taken for granted. And I put it to you, if this government is going to grip sharpish, they're in deep doo-doo.
Well, look, I agree with you, the fact that the government has to get a grip on this. I think the government is getting a grip on this, and that's why all those announcements that Shabana made when she came in over the last month on stopping the automatic defaulting to indefinite leave to remain will have real impact, because the figures are already coming down on legal migration. They need to come down further. The two things, we talked about welfare into work, the two things go together, because we need to get British people the skills that they need to do the jobs, and sometimes they need a bit of as well as carrot, they need a bit of stick to get some people to do the jobs, and that needs to be part of the package. So it needs to be as a whole. So there's more work to be done, Martin.
What do you say to people who say the Labour Party don't want to clamp down on benefits for people who come from overseas because they want their votes?
It's actually, the figures don't bear it out, because people who are on benefits tend to vote less, and actually they're often in places which at the moment don't vote Labour. It's at the moment the core Labour vote is middle class Liberals who are a whole different kettle of fish. We can talk about another time, but I think that's a little bit cynical. I think you will find the government coming back with a really big welfare to work package in the new year. I'm told that's coming. It's got to come. From my point of view, it can't come soon enough.
Well, Matthew Larser, perhaps you believe in miracles at Christmas. Thank you.
You've got to keep hoping.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Matthew Larser. Now, coming up next, Reform UK have unveiled their plans to slash the size of the civil service and save billions of pounds. I'll be joined in the studio by Reform UK's Danny Kruger, who is developing the party's programme for government and laid out those plans this morning. That's next.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host Martin Daubney. Now, the civil service has become bloated, overstaffed and has failed to deliver what is expected by the British people. And that was a damning verdict delivered by Reform UK today at a press conference this morning as the party outlined its plan to slim down the size of the blob. Now, the party's plans for government would see nearly 70,000 civil servants shown the door, which the party says would save billions of pounds. Now, other policies include the introduction of performance-based pay and cutting back on gold-plated public sector pensions. And here's what Danny Kruger, who's leading reform's preparations for government, laying out the case for reform, said earlier on today.
Over the last 30 years, under Labour and the Conservatives, power has drained away from Parliament to quangos, to the EU, to so-called operationally independent public servants, to parts of the civil service so obscure and complicated that ministers don't even know that they're there. There has been a failure of political leadership and a civil service machine that is overstaffed, badly led and underperforming. Now, my message today is to the civil servants. Change is coming.
There we go. Change is coming, and I'm joined now by the Reform MP and the head of Reform, its departments for preparing for government, Danny Kruger. Danny Kruger, welcome to the show. Change is coming. You're going to war with the blob. Tell us more.
That's right, Martin. And I mean, going to war is one way of putting it. There's certainly going to be radical change, and the current system isn't going to like it, particularly the leaders of the civil service who've presided over a collapse in productivity and woeful outcomes for citizens and a huge increase in cost for the taxpayer. But beyond that, I want to say to civil servants who are listening, I'm sure some do watch GB News, that it's actually going to be a better place to work in Whitehall after we finish. We're going to get rid of so much of the bureaucracy which they struggle with. You know, good public servants, good civil servants don't like bureaucracy any more than the public do. And we're going to link their pay more closely to performance. We're going to pay good civil servants better. But overall, our first mission and what I was announcing today today is a major reduction in the headcount and the wage bill of the civil service as a whole, which has grown so much over the last 10 years. So yes, nearly 70,000 full-time equivalent roles will be lost. That will save us around £5 billion a year once those savings have been realised after a couple of years. And we're going to put a little bit of that money, 500 million in total, into a new pot which will be used for rewarding high-performing civil servants, a bonus pot, because we think we should be encouraging civil servants to work hard. Not according to their own ideological prejudices, but they want to work. They've got to need to work for the government and answer directly to ministers for the delivery of what the Reform Party would have been elected to do.
OK, Danny Kruger, if you're going to war with the blob, may they go to war with you? There's going to be 70,000 staff that might simply down tools or threaten to walk out if Reform UK were getting into power.
Well, that's the 70,000 we want to walk out, and there will be redundancy programmes for them, and they'll be relieved of their roles in the usual way. I actually think there's going to be quite a lot of support for what we want to do. We've been contacted by a large number of civil servants complaining about how difficult it is to work under the current system. But you're right that there will be a minority of officials and their unions who will try and resist what we're going to do. And a core part of our programme for government that I'm helping us develop is a plan from day one to take back control of Whitehall itself, so that civil servants answer to ministers, not to their own permanent secretaries or the cabinet secretary, or to their own idea of what the public interest is. They need to do what ministers are mandated to ask them to do. And if there is resistance to that, well, we will use the law to ensure that the government that has been elected will have its way.
Danny Kruger, how about going a stage further? Go full Donald Trump and make everybody who works for the blob sign up to the government's mission. If you don't agree with what the government is, clear off.
Well, that's implicit already, but we need to clarify that more. I think you're right to say that, or to imply that a lot of civil servants don't agree with what Reform want to do. That won't be an excuse under a Reform government. You will be expected to honour the mandate that we have won. We will change the civil service code to ensure that civil servants understand that they answer properly to ministers. They don't have an independent career outside the government, and we want outside the elected government, that is. And ministers will have genuine authority to appoint civil servants and to dismiss those who don't do what they're asked to.
OK, Danny Kruger, thank you very much for joining us on the show tonight. I appreciate your time. Quick bit of reaction back in the studio here, joined by Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg and also Matthew Larser still with us. Matthew, do you think this will precipitate perhaps a broader walkout of the blob?
Oh, that's an interesting thought. No, I suspect not. I suspect people won't want to abandon their gold-plated pensions just yet. But what I think it would do is discourage people from joining the civil service. It has to be a delicate balance between attracting the brightest and the best and not having it massively increase. I'd say two things. I have cynicism about all parties' attempts to cut the civil service. We were just reminiscing in the break about 2010 election when the Tories did a very effective press stunt with lots of cutouts of civil servants in bowler hats, and said these are thousands of them, and said we're going to cut, one for each thousand. We're going to cut however many thousand it was. There was some success in doing that, but then what happened was Brexit, and we've had a massive growth in the civil service since Brexit, partly because we are making more laws for ourselves. It means you need more people to help make those laws, seemingly. So I'm cynical about all parties saying we're going to cut bureaucracy, we're going to cut the civil service. It's an easy thing to do, a few figures on the back of a fag packet and stick that in your manifesto, so you can say you're going to spend the money on things that people prefer, like nurses to civil servants. But I'm cynical.
So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, no doubt you love the sound of these plans. You've waged your own war on the blob in the past.
Well, I'm very keen on these plans. I think they're the right thing to be doing. Francis Maude succeeded in doing it, as did Michael Heseltine. When I became Minister for Government Efficiency, I took in a copy of Michael Heseltine's memoirs, which rather surprised people because I'm not an ideological soulmate of his, but he had done it successfully in the Department of the Environment in 1979. It can be done, but it requires a very focused minister in charge and the absolute backing of the Prime Minister, because departments are independent, so you can have a central instruction, and the Secretary of State for DWP or Foreign Secretary, whatever, doesn't do it, doesn't take a notice. So you need complete support of the Prime Minister. And I'd warn Danny on performance-based pay, because When I became Minister for Government Efficiency, I got a note on performance-based pay, which had been given to my predecessor and was then given to my successor and to my next successor. I think was finally accepted by Pat McFadden. It basically meant pay rises all round. It was written as performance-related pay. When you read the detail, you discovered they were all going to give each other very high performance ratings and lots of taxpayers' cash.
Is there any credence in the notion that many people watching this show will no doubt believe that the civil service, the blob, is consistently working against the desires of a government, particularly if it's a government with more conservative leanings?
I don't fully believe that. I think there are some, and there are probably some who are conservative and don't like working for a Labour government, but not many. The main obstruction I found was they'd come and say, Minister, you can't do that because of the Climate Change Act, the Human Rights Act, the Equality Act, acts that Parliament had passed and needs to unpass so that we get back to ministerial control and, crucially, accountability to Parliament and to voters.
But if that's all honed, are you confident there could be billions of quid that could be saved and skimmed off?
Oh, huge amounts, yes. I got very excited when my permanent secretary said that he was going to come up with a plan to get us back to 1920 levels. And I thought, marvellous, he meant 1920. It turned out he meant 2019, 2020. But what we really want to do is get back to 1920 levels when we had very few civil servants and ran things quite well.
OK, so Jacob, of course, State of the Nation is up next. You've got a quick minute. What's on your menu, sir?
Yes, well, we've got to talk about the awful, wicked attacks on Bondi Beach and how they come about. What is the relationship between freedom of speech and evil? How does this happen? What constraints should you have on freedom of speech? Is that the problem? Or do people use religion as an excuse for their own wickedness? I'm going to be discussing that with somebody from the Free Speech Union and with my panel.
And are you convinced? We've seen tonight a vigil at Westminster. We heard that somebody from Sadiq Khan's office went over and was taking chagrin at the fact they laid down a menorah at the statue of Churchill.
I mean, I hadn't heard that. Obviously, it's important that the Mayor's office should be represented at an event like this. I think that's only proper. But I think it is just desperately sad when things like this happen, and it's so clearly an anti-Semitic attack, an attack on all the Jewish people, and that I think as Christians we should support the Jewish people who are, of course, our fathers in faith.
Thank you very much, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Of course, State of the Nation is up next. And just to remind you, we've approached the Mayor's office for a comment on that. And also, the event did go ahead at Parliament. Gideon Falter did tell us, however, that they didn't seem particularly keen. State of the Nation is up next with Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Sir Jacob, thanks you. And Matthew Larser, thanks for your time. I'll be back tomorrow, 3 till 6 p.m. In the meantime, stay safe. And up next, State of the Nation.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Through tonight, it will turn drier and clearer across north and western areas finally, but the rain will push into more eastern areas of England. That's because this weather front is slowly but surely shifting its way eastwards through the rest of today, and behind it, we've got a ridge of slightly higher pressure moving in. So still some wet weather to come, particularly for northeastern England overnight tonight, and that rain will push into eastern areas of England, becoming a weaker feature, but still bringing some rain. Much drier night across many western and northern areas. We could see a touch of frost across parts of Northern Ireland, so a much chillier start here. And for most of us, it will be a more widely colder night tonight. There will also be a little bit of mist and fog around to start the day on Tuesday, particularly across anywhere we've had a lot of rain recently. Parts of southwest England, much of Wales seeing a much brighter start to the day. Some sunshine around. The further north and west you go, the brighter skies become. But as you move over towards western Scotland, there's a risk of showers, some of these falling as snow just over the highest mountains of the Highlands, for example. Clearer skies, though, across more eastern areas of Scotland. So a fairly bright and dry start to the day, certainly much nicer than it has been lately. But the cloud will linger across more eastern areas of England through much of the day. Actually, the rain could come and go, particularly across the far southeast. Elsewhere, though, a dry, bright and for some of us quite a sunny day. It's going to be a slightly fresher feel out there. Temperatures temperatures much closer to average for the time of year, around 8 or 9 degrees across many southern areas. Now, the dry weather doesn't last long as we've got the next batch of rain moving in from the northwest on Wednesday. And as it moves into parts of South Wales, southwestern England, where we've had a lot of rain recently, there is another rain warning in force here. Could see further flooding issues and travel disruption. It looks quite unsettled into Thursday as well as the weekend. So please stay tuned to the forecast as there is a risk of flooding. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation tonight.
In Australia, and indeed in quite a few other countries, including Britain, there has been far too much tolerance of anti-Jewish hate speech.
Yesterday, the world was shocked by the news of an evil act of violence committed towards the Jewish community in Sydney by 2 individuals who pledged allegiance to ISIS. But where does the line between the freedom to hold a divisive opinion and incitement to violence begin? Would a more robust stance on pro-Palestine marches have made a difference? Or are evil people predisposed to violence regardless of the scripture they follow? Also,
it's incredibly important that we tell China and Hong Kong that our values are not up for trade. The freedom of our people will never be up for trade.
a Chinese court in Hong Kong, a puppet for the Communist Party, has found media tycoon and pro-democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai guilty of colluding with foreign forces, which could see him jailed for life. The Apple Daily founder was prosecuted, possibly persecuted would be more accurate, under China's national security law in a case which has drawn international attention to China's reneging on its agreement with Britain over the government in Hong Kong by squashing free speech. Mr. Lai's son joins me shortly to discuss his father's ordeal. Also tonight,
of investment and growth must be built and felt in every part of our United Kingdom.
Britain's economy is stuck in a doom loop of decline following pre-budget contractions, escalating unfunded welfare spending and fears over tax rises and interest rates. The government says its plan will work, but with GDP falling and pressure on the Bank of England, how does the UK get growth going again? Plus, is Labour on the verge of an irreparable split? Tensions are rising after Ian Murray publicly criticised Sir Keir Starmer following his sacking as Scotland Secretary. Rumours of leadership plots carry on as Andy Burnham is supposedly planning a by-election. Is Labour on the brink of a crisis? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most penetratingly percipient panel, the former Conservative MP and Minister Sir John Redwood and the political commentator Matthew Stadlen. As always, let me know what you think. Mailmog at gbnews.com. But now, it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Katie Bowen.
Jacob, thank you and good evening. The headlines at 8:02. The Prime Minister has said that the terror attack on Bondi Beach was not an isolated incident and is part of a pattern of incidents focused on Jewish holy days. 2 men opened fire at a Hanukkah gathering on Sydney's iconic beach yesterday, killing 15 people. The victims include a 10-year-old girl, a British-born rabbi and a Holocaust survivor. Sir Keir Starmer added that he wanted to reassure Jewish communities in the United Kingdam, and a vigil is taking place in Westminster and in Heaton Park this evening. Police earlier confirmed the gunmen were father and son, Sajid Akram and Naveed Akram. The older man died at the scene while his son is in a critical condition in hospital. Local media reported that 2 Islamic State flags were found in the gunman's car. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said clearly they were motivated by this extremist ideology. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has called on resident doctors to ignore the British Medical Association and abandon the